All right. Call this meeting for the Toledo City Council work session for August 28, 2024 to order. First item is the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I will take a roll call. Councilor Mix is not here, and Council President Bush is excused. Councilor Kaufman.
Here.
Councilor Strong.
Present.
Councilor Sylvia.
Here.
Councilor Burns.
Here.
And I am here. We have 5. We have a quorum. We can conduct business. First item, presentation from the Oregon Department of Forestry, Community Assistance Forester, Brittany Oxford.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to go through some of my notes from a report I wrote up for you all last year. Hopefully I can come and connect with you all in person someday, but it's sort of cool to meet you on a screen. You're all very tiny for me. So maybe I'll just go through some of the things that I talked about and then open it up for any questions the council may have. So for those of you who don't know me and my background, my name is Brittany Oxford. I work as a community assistance forester in the urban and community forestry program at ODF. I'm also a certified arborist, and I go around the state of Oregon, helping mostly local municipalities with technical support, any and all things trees and urban environments. So I was initially asked to come out and look at some European hornbeams that were planted along Main Street. There was a concern that that species was causing issues with sidewalks. And when I came out there and measured the trees, they're about 10 inches in diameter at breast height or standard height, so 4.5 feet off the ground. So they had not yet outgrown the planting site, which the cutout I had measured at 3 feet. And other trees of similar sizes were not creating sidewalk issues on the same street. I also know that hornbeams are not they're a really good species for that specific place that you all have them planted because of their growth habits and it being along a main thoroughfare. Their branches are not going to need a lot of maintenance along that street as they get larger. They're also a really hardy species for streets and do pretty well. So I don't actually think that it's a species-specific issue that's causing some of the sidewalk conflicts there. Some ideas that I had where we do run into a lot of sidewalk conflicts could be from improper planting, shallow watering, lack of oxygen and water availability to the roots in combination with aging sidewalks. So whenever the tree was initially planted there, maybe wasn't root pruned enough, and then those structural roots didn't develop structure that was very well, and then maybe they didn't get enough oxygen. So they went searching for it in other places, breaking up sidewalks like what we're seeing now. Essentially just maintenance and poor root structure can lead to those sidewalk damages. So if you replaced it with another species and some of those underlying issues happened again, you would see the same sidewalk damages in 10 to 15 years, or depending on the species, how long it would take for a newly planted tree to replace the size that you have there now. So that's why I was sort of giving the recommendation that on a cost savings perspective, if I was a city staff person, I might opt to preserving the trees that are there. Other things that I noticed was pavers that were put in the planting width in some of the trees along the street. So that could be contributing to limited amounts of water and oxygen getting to some of those structural roots because it's really impervious there. So if you did something as simple as replacing those pavers with a more impervious surface, that could help alleviate some of the root issues. And then I guess I just made some general recommendations to prevent sidewalk conflicts in the future when you plant new trees. So that could be something really all around promoting tree health, establishment, and root development. So whenever you first plant a tree, you kind of have to baby them more than the established trees to try to get them to develop those root structures and crown structures that are going to be more conducive for urban environments and prevent things like sidewalk damages and roadway clearances and things like that. So amending the soil prior to planting can help a lot. Mulching around newly planted trees. Slow and deep and consistent watering of trees is really important. A lot of the times trees are getting watered, but not enough water and not at the amount that they need. And then, like I said, removing some of those pavers and impervious surfaces. And if you could expand that 3-foot cutout by a foot or 2 feet, I didn't look at the rest of the site to see what the ADA requirements might look like. But expanding that cutout could help there. And then, yeah, so I guess some other observations that I made just while I was there is that I did notice some improper pruning cuts on some of the maples along the same street. They seemed to be stressed to me because they had epicormic sprouts shooting out or sort of like growth as a stress response. So I guess just recommending that if the city is contracting tree planting or tree pruning, to try to have a ISA certified or International Society of Arboriculture certified arborist do some of that work. And then, yeah, and then if you did end up like replacing the sidewalks along that street, I would use that as an opportunity to install some irrigation if you can, because it will be an investment that might benefit you in the future. And it's a good way to sort of install that while that work is happening. And then just keeping all of the trees well watered throughout the hot summer season would help to prevent more preventative side of things in the recommendations. And then as far as the hornbeams that are there now that are causing some sidewalk conflicts, I would recommend preserving those trees because they're older, they're a good species for that site. They're providing a lot of ecosystem benefits, shading that building that's there and potential cost savings, especially considering the cost of removal, stump grinding, and then proper maintenance for a newly planted tree is expensive because they require more watering and attention than an established tree like the ones that you have. And the established trees that you do have there are very healthy. So those were my general recommendations. Another thing while I have your time that I wanted to mention is that our program offers a lot of support. Right now we have a federal grant available to entities such as local municipalities of about $12.5 million right now for urban and community forestry work. So I can follow up with some information about that. And then there's also some state funding opportunities. We have some software tools available and free to use. And we offer arboriculture workshops to city staff and volunteers at no cost. And we support the Tree City USA program. So if you're interested in that and need some resources there, feel free to reach out.
So we've been at Tree City USA for 28 straight years, I believe.
Oh, apologies. I've only been with the program for a little over a year. So
It's okay.
still learning them all. It's part of my spiel.
we kind of have made our history on trees. So
and a lot of Oregon has. It's why I'm so happy to be here. So I'm glad to hear it.
Well, welcome to Oregon. So I would really encourage either you or I will have staff have our planning department reach out to you about those grants.
Yeah.
And those opportunities.
Our city forester.
Because I would really like to avail ourselves of those resources so that we can better handle our trees and the Main Street situation. I really want to thank you for coming and presenting to us.
That's awesome.
You made a lot of people on this day smile.
Oh, good. And likewise, yeah.
Any other questions or comments, council?
I've got a question. Some of the trees are seemingly kind of getting into the buildings that are down there. So as far as cutting them, trimming them and such, so they aren't quite so big, is that allowable on those particular trees?
Yeah, so for some of those pruning for clearance and buildings and things, that's definitely something that you can do. I would just say follow best management practices so that you're not causing stress to the tree. So only pruning a certain amount of it or in stages, and consulting with a certified arborist when you do that work.
Oh, so we'd have to do an arborist. We couldn't get you to come down and one of your staffs. I mean, you have a pretty big staff, so I was wondering if we could
We could
maybe.
get a grant for them.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah, so
we could-
that's a great point, and actually something that I run into a lot. So we do have the staff and the qualifications to do that sort of work, but as a state government agency, we have to be mindful and not compete with the private sector. So we can do things like offer technical support, educational support. So I could train some of your staff how to do structural pruning and proper planting techniques, or run a volunteer event. Yeah. But for, I think, some of the larger, more established trees, and if it's a major pruning project, then that's when I would recommend you to go to arborist company that works in Toledo.
Well, as far as pruning and such and getting them back to where they were enhancing Main Street instead of inhibiting some of the other places for security and such on there. Yeah, we could get some of your staff to come down and talk to our staff and get that done. That would be awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, so I would just reach out to me and I can schedule that with our team. Like in an email. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Brittany.
The tree houses made notes.
Anything else, council?
With the city forest.
Well, we will return you to having a pleasant evening.
Okay, thank you so much. And feel free to reach out anytime with any and all urban forestry questions. We're happy to help.
Thank you, Brittany.
Thank you, Brittany.
Bye.
Good questions.
That was awesome.
Next item, we have a presentation from our municipal court report from Municipal Judge Arnold Poole. Your Honor.
Hello, Mayor, Council, glad to be here. It's ironic that I'm following the forester because I, as a young 18-year-old in the 70s, went to college to become a forester. But I got a D in chemistry and I got an A in political science. I was like, I think I need to go into the humanities. Then as a brand new puppy lawyer, I got a job as a city attorney for a Fall City, that's west of Dallas. One of the first things he wanted me to do was sue a local logger for logging off one of the city streets. It's sort of unimproved. So mostly, I like to come once a year, show my face and give you an opportunity for any questions you might have. I gotta tell you, we got a neat little court here. We get a lot of support from Mike Adams and from Mike Pace back there and his folks. There are 4 other cities in this state who have court rules that look exactly like the ones that Mike Adams wrote for this city. And the thing in the law business, there's no such thing as plagiarism because we base decisions on precedent, things like that. So usually we're honored when somebody follows our stuff. And Mike was honored when I stole his stuff. And actually, we had a thing going there for a while where, you know, you'd write something and no, you screwed up, Mike, and I wrote this, and then it went back and forth. So there are 4 of the cities that follow that. And what you have here with the ordinances online that folks can look at is excellent. I wish I could get some of the other and some of the big cities to do that. And I'll tell you something else. One of Mike Pace's people, Ron Bush, He does a fantastic job. I can tell because I'm not getting any code enforcements here. And that tells me that Ron is out there talking to people and convincing them to do stuff. I'm the judge for the city of Siletz, and he and I were both hired for code enforcement. And we just shake our heads. Ron does a fantastic job. So I know he's doing the same here, but he's effective and he is there. I asked Cindy and Lisa to give you she put together an offenses by year report. We got 2023 and what we have so far of 2021. They're running about the same. I think the police department's probably writing more tickets this year than they were last year. It was only a total of 201 last year, and we're up to 115 already. We don't do misdemeanors. It's strictly a traffic court and code enforcement. I like to encourage people to get a driver's license and, more importantly, to get insurance. And so when they come in, they don't have insurance, I'll ask them what their plan is. And if they got a ticket from one of my cases, people, and they went out and they got insurance, I'll say, you know what, we'll call this a fix-it ticket, like you had a broken bumper and you fixed it. And so I charge them a little bit. It's a dismissal. We don't have to share any of that money with the state, or we offer them a traffic school. And that's kind of a win-win, because what we do on the traffic school is they pay the presumptive a fee. I have to make sure it's a fee that's exactly the same as the presumptive fine. And then they do the traffic school. The traffic school, it's an online program. I've taken it now a couple of times, and it's like what I would have want my kids to take the week before they went and took their driving test. And we tell them if they do the test, they pay the fee, I'll dismiss the ticket. Right? And we offer that for people who haven't been in trouble for a couple of years. If they say they're going to do it and they don't take the class, well, guess what? We have a conviction over here, and we're going to collect the money. We have our biggest challenge, and we've all been scratching our heads over this for the last couple of years. Both of the Mikes and Doug, and then the lady before Doug, how to get people into court. And I don't know, if somebody gets a, let's say, driving while suspended ticket, or let's call it a speeding ticket. They don't come to court. Cindy upstairs will send them a letter, says, you know what, you missed court. We're going to reschedule you for next month. Then when they don't show up again next month, then we send a report to DMV, says they didn't do it. It ends up being a conviction. We give them the presumptive fine, and DMV will suspend their license. For folks like you and I, if you got a letter like that, you're going to run down to the courthouse and pay your ticket. Or if you get a letter from DMV saying, hey, you're now suspended, you're going to sit up and take notice. We got a lot of folks that don't want to do it. My favorite case here in this court was a 14-year-old who got in trouble for driving without a driver's license. He showed up with his on a motorcycle that wasn't registered, but that was 2 or 3 years ago. And but his dad was there, and they made some concessions and things like that. Essentially, that's about all I have to talk about. If you guys have some questions for me, I'd love to ask.
Well, I just have a couple of comments. One, I think you're doing an outstanding job. Couple of reasons. One, you work with people.
I do try that.
You know,
I do have.
I have been young. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
And I love our police department. I love how you're handling things. I grew up in a small town, smaller than Toledo. We had one police officer, and I'll just tell you a quick story. And so my my older brother, and when I say older, he was 17 years older than me. And he would take me out to the commune where he would go out and do recreational pharmaceuticals. And then I would drive him back on his motorcycle. And I was all of 12.
Mhm.
I was big enough to do that. But one time, our local police officer, because I was one with the helmet, I took the helmet, I made him, anyway, he says, so Rod, what are you doing? And I told him, I said, I'm taking my brother home. That's the only reason that I was along is because I'm his ride back. And he goes, okay, you were to go straight home and you don't do anything else. Yes, sir. And, because he knew, I mean,
Mhm.
and it was probably one of the better educational tools of my life because I learned I didn't want to do those things.
Exactly.
Because I saw people do stuff that just to this day, I just go, why would you? Why
Yeah,
would you want to see fake spiders crawling on a wall?
right, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Don't
yeah,
get it.
Yeah,
And you guys act like that, and that's what a small town, I mean, to me, that's what small town's about,
Mhm.
right? We look out for one another, and you guys are
Yeah.
both looking out for our citizens, and I really appreciate it.
And I appreciate the fact that Mike Adams is in here with me. Because there's times when, particularly on the code enforcement. Those are actually a way bigger deal than a traffic ticket. Because he has to draft the complaint and it's like suing somebody. And then when they come in, if they want to plead guilty or something like that, they can negotiate with him right then and there. On a traffic ticket, they
Yeah.
really can't negotiate. They just do what I tell them to do. But it's wonderful. And I'll tell you, that's the problem that I'm having with Silet's because Silet's hired a firm in Eugene. And I've had to reach out to their city attorney saying, hey, I know this is my judgment and I wrote the damn thing, but really that's something that you should be doing. But I do try to treat everybody fairly and the same. I do have a strict rule about no hats in the courtroom. And some people, I won't mention any names in this room, it's gotten in trouble in this way, wearing a hat. But I wanted,
This is my room right now.
Yes. But we had, when we did the Toledo hotel trial, the guy,
Jim Egan.
no, not him. He was the witness. The guy, he had a fisherman who was living there to be his witness and he was his manager on site. And this fisherman, Jim Egan, comes up and he sits down, he's got a stocking cap on. I said, hey, we're in a courtroom. You want to take your stocking cap off? And you ever see those, was it Simply Safe commercials where the burglar is selling the burglar alarms and whatnot? And he's got one where he pulls the stocking cap off, the snow, and there's one underneath it. Well, that's what this guy does. He pulls off his stocking cap and there's one underneath it.
Welcome to Toledo.
Yes. Anyway, that's about all I have. If you need to yell at me for anything or.
Any questions, comments, council?
Just as far as the code enforcement and such on there, I know that seemed to be one of the things that we talked about a lot is to get things done and such on there. And I was just curious, I didn't see the stats, but are we having a lot of code enforcement cases come to you?
We did more a couple of years ago, I want to say.
But lately,
Like I said, once Ron got involved, I think he's within the last couple of years, right? Once he got involved, it like stopped. And I know it's not because he's not doing his job because I see him over in Silet's on his doing that over there. So I think he's doing it here, but Ron is such a personable guy.
And Ron consults with me and there's times when, at least a couple times, air gas, or there was a propane facility that was renting from the port over there and they weren't updating all their fire stuff. And Ron came to me and I wrote him a demand letter and said I was going to cite him into court. It was daily fees and that did it. They, you know, I sent a copy of the letter to the port and they're, because the port on the underlying ground and they, you know, all of a sudden did the upgrades with the fire extinguishers, fire stuff they needed to. And so that has happened a couple times as well with Ron. Where you get a letter, he'll come to me and get a letter from the attorney.
Well, Stu, you can't see it, but so far this year, there's only been 3 code enforcement issues, 2 junk, garbage and rubbish, and 1 unnecessary noise. So there's only been 3 so far.
Yeah, and I think.
I know we went through the livability code and such on there, and that was gonna give some teeth so that we could get some stuff done here in
Yeah.
town, and hopefully that'll.
I gotta tell you, I learned the hard way over in Silet's that the teeth really is the fine per day. Another, it's because I had one guy, I gave him three or 4 months to clean up his place. There was no improvement at all. I said, okay, fine, I'll give you the maximum fine. And I gave him $2,000 fine. He just, okay. Went about his business. So we're doing it again. And I made it real clear to him. It's gonna be a daily fine, you know, until his things are improved. Because I had another case where I was able to give somebody a fine and they had worked themselves up to $273,000 over there. Then it's suddenly worth an out-of-town city attorney to take it to court and do an abatement case and then essentially take over the land for the city.
Well, I know we've got some other hopefully pending things is to get some of the parking issues taken care of. So we can cite them into your court and you can impound their vehicles and whatever else.
I'm not,
Oh, you're
yeah.
going straight to,
Oh, yeah. You park illegally in this town, it's towed. So you're on
It's on
that.
event day.
Yeah. First time.
any other comments or questions, council? All right. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you all. If you don't.
Appreciate your hard work, Your Honor.
I'm gonna leave and go home and sleep. I had the same talk with the city of McMinnville last night. And then I foolishly thought, oh, I'll just stay in a hotel there. Well, strange bed and whatnot and excited from the talk and I hardly slept at all. So
How's Mayor Drabkin doing?
she's doing fine.
Good.
Yeah, they, I was surprised. They had no questions. There was no give and take. I thought we'd have a little, thing like that.
So you're doing such a good job.
That's gotta be it. Yeah,
That's it.
we'll go with that.
That's what
There
it
you
is
go.
here.
All right, thank
Thank you.
you. I'm gonna leave.
All right. Our next item is visitors' public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address council this evening on an item not on the agenda?
If there's anyone online who would like to speak to the council, please raise your hand and you will be recognized. There are no hands raised, Mayor.
All right. Next item is discussion items because there is no consent agenda this evening. Discussion items, consideration of draft letter in response to Oregon NFIP biological opinion from Mayor Cross. So those of you on the dais is the letter that I crafted. I say that because after reading the letter that our senators and Congress folks have already sent, they did a good job touching on, for lack of a better word, all the polite nuances of the situation. So I felt more of a need to point out the big blunt objects that are hanging over our heads.
Turd in the punch bowl.
What's that?
The turd in the punch bowl is what it's called.
I used to call it the sword of Damocles back in the day when I was in college, but that my kids know it because I use it at home. But the purpose of this letter is to try and bring to them not just the urgency by which something has to happen, but why that urgency is there. Personally, I don't think they understand Measure 56, and I'm hoping this will spur them to find out about it. Secondly, I don't think they understand that without flood insurance, a lot of our homeowners are going to end up going into automatic foreclosure because it's usually part of your mortgage. That you must have flood insurance. And so, and then I don't think they understand, like under 56, that we're the ones left holding the bag. Not FEMA. So that's why I crafted it the way I did. I would be welcome to hear anything anybody wants to add, craft any a little better, because I'm representing all of us with this letter, so feel free to chime in.
You were nicer than I would have been.
Yeah.
Probably because you crafted this and not me, because this has had me heated since we discussed this last week. And I mean heated. I've gone and talked to business owners, I've talked to residents. And I mean, I had a discussion with Stu and his business about this with the citizen, and it just pisses me off, to say the least.
Is there a copy there on the corner, Dias?
You don't have one? Okay.
So,
No, I thought, you were kind in some ways.
Anybody else want one?
And
You mean the fact that you have like.
well, that got, you know, I get that. But the idea that they are seemingly holding us hostage and just trying to
Yes,
thwart anything happening on the Oregon coast or
anywhere.
anywhere.
I mean, the
beyond-
170-foot buffer.
Yes, and it,
I need people to understand how big that is. Okay? If you have a 1/4 acre lot, you only have 150 feet on the side. So think about that. So you are moving that far away to be able to do anything around your property if you're on a next to a floodway.
Well, not only that, but if you decide you want to clear out, like, I'm not in a floodway, but we'll use my property as an instance. If I decided to clear my trees off my property to put grass in for my kids, I got big Douglas firs. Can't do nothing. If you tell me I can't do something on my property, then that falls under 56.
Yep.
And that, again, it doesn't go to FEMA. FEMA can
Goes
take a
to
back
us.
seat. And I mean, if we were to threaten the federal government, what would happen? We'd be in deep.
No,
But
but
they
we'd
can
be
threaten
laughed
us.
at and they wouldn't even do anything.
But they can threaten us and force their issue, and it's,
Yep.
yeah.
well, I see stuff that's going on around us as far as people filling illegally and such, and it seemingly takes the county years to get anything started.
I think
So-
we're talking about the same person.
Yeah. I think, but it's not only just there, it's all over the county.
Yeah.
Unless the person in charge thinks it's really important.
Well, so I'm gonna take a neighboring community. Okay? Newport. You look at all the development in South Beach, it's over.
Mhm.
Because that is all in a floodway.
no,
That-
no, to bring it up,
Yep.
to be on the base flood elevation and no impervious surface, can't pave it.
No clearing of the edges on that riparian area, which means most of the houses at the end of South Shore, the big expensive part down there, guess what that means for them?
They can't mow their lawns.
There you go. You can't mow your lawn and you're not gonna be able to do anything there because it falls within that 170 feet.
Well, that, and you can't dredge the bays, which means at some point. in
There goes our
time-
fishing industry.
Well, at some point in time, all that sediment's gonna raise up, which means the water level is gonna raise up,
Yep.
which is gonna create more floods. Fisheries are done,
Yep,
logging is done.
Yep.
This is just a disaster waiting to happen.
Counselor, do you see any issues with my letter as crafted?
I think it's pointed.
Well, it was meant to be.
I know, I read it and I frankly think it's well written.
The question.
I don't see
Okay, I'm asking you because you're my attorney.
any, I mean, the ordinance that constitutes taking this action.
The council being.
And you said by the rules of measure 56, and that's really what measure 56 is you're I'm impacting your property rights.
Exactly.
I'm changing the rules to take away your ability to put in
do
fill,
something, yes.
to pave surfaces. As a city with an ordinance, we're taking that away, and so yeah.
Do you agree with the capital B on blackmail?
Caps.
I think it all should be in capital.
Yeah, I do, to get their.
Well, that's why I did capitalize do not.
Yeah, I don't really have an issue with that word.
Oh, I don't have an issue with the word at all. I just think it's kind of funny that he capitalized B.
I capitalized,
Oh.
here's exactly why I capitalized. So here, and I think the attorney will appreciate this. I capitalized it because it is its own section in the Oregon Revised Statutes of what you
So
can
it's
go to
the
jail
title.
for.
It's the title.
It's blackmail and it's capitalized.
Well, and I think you're correct in saying it's a form of blackmail. You're not saying
Oh, yeah.
it is blackmail. It meets
Well-
all the elements of the crime. You're
I know I'm walking the edge there, but I meant what I wrote.
and so
Because essentially, in my mind, that's what they're doing. We're going to take away the flood insurance program from your constituents if you don't do this. And if we do this, then we're behind the 8 ball on measure 56.
yeah. Yeah.
So no matter what happens here,
We're screwed.
we're screwed.
Damn,
Yeah.
you're doing, damn,
Yeah.
don't.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'm glad that we can talk about it a lot before as a council to figure out how to proceed, because just letting the land use department figure it out is I'm glad we're having this back and forth.
Let's grab our
So
pitchforks.
next week, the
And
group that I was telling you about last week is meeting with LCDC, and I've invited both Mike and Doug to be a part of that call. Because I'm gonna be at football practice, so I won't get there till probably it's wrapping up. But I'm hoping that they'll have a report for us then at our next meeting so that they can tell us what came out of that. But if you all decide to approve this letter, then I will sign it and we'll make sure it gets off to all 3 of those folks.
I say send it.
Thank you.
And Jackie, you had a comment?
Well, just a question, so. Does a letter like this, when it's received to the legislators that it's addressed to,
Mm-hmm.
get sucked into an abyss, or what is the expectation of?
So I would say that it probably would go into an abyss. But there's a problem going into the abyss for this. One, Senator Merkley and our office have a good working relationship. So I don't think we'll get sucked into the abyss there. Congresswoman Hoyle, she and I have been working on a few things, so we know each other. I don't think it'd get sucked into the void there. Senator Wyden, I can't say for sure, but with the other 2, I don't think it will. And I'm gonna forward this to the group that is formed to help try and stop this thing from happening and let them know that this is the letter we're sending. And I'm gonna use my position as president of the OMA to try and get more and more information out about this because it affects 221 of our 242 cities. So,
I think 19 counties
yeah,
and 2 tribes.
no, not 19 counties,
18 or 21.
21 counties.
21 out of
This
26.
supersedes even tribal lands?
Oh, yeah, they're going after everything. Yep.
Wow, they're gonna have a fight.
So then what might be an expected or anticipated response if, I realize you don't have a crystal ball, but.
Well, the initial response will be one of, we hear your concerns. Okay. That'll be the initial response. And then if they get response back from FEMA, we'll get more response. Because the way the process works is that even though, for lack of a better word, we know we're in the right, our Congress people know that they're in the right, it's still a federal agency. And a federal agency falls under the executive branch. Now, it can be acted upon by the Congress if the Congress passes a rule or passes something that directly affects that agency.
Okay.
Okay. My sense is if this doesn't change, that might be what happens. Because one of the things that I find amusing about them coming after Oregon is that we have two of the highest ranking senators in the entire United States government. We have the ranking member on the Senate Finance Committee, and we have the ranking member on the Senate Appropriations Committee. I don't think you want to screw with these guys. I don't know. I don't think I would want to. And
Well, and from a military standpoint, from the Oregon Military Department, you get, frankly, on active duty, I wrote letters to congressmen around the United States and said, hey, I represent this person in your district. This has happened, and they reach out to the agency and say, what's the deal?
Well, that's hopeful.
So I think that could be
And the fight
the
is
senators
around,
should reach out to them.
and the fight
FEMA.
is around FEMA circumventing the rules of moving forward because they're doing this on we're a guinea pig type state, and they're only implementing it here as a trial to see how it goes, so they can circumvent the public comment rules, and
well, see, I don't,
that's the issue.
this is part of what I don't think, how do I say this? I don't think they understand, especially Measure 56. Okay, I think we're talking about a bunch of people who are not Oregonians, who do not understand how the process works in Oregon. Okay, we're different, folks. I mean, I gotta break this to you. We govern differently in this state than most other states do.
So are you talking about FEMA doesn't understand?
Yeah, I don't even think their field reps get it. Okay, I don't think they even thought about Measure 56 when they thought they were gonna make us their guinea pig.
Okay.
Okay, that no, there's this really big law in the state of Oregon that I'm sorry, you're not gonna get around it. Cause it's too black letter. I mean, for once, we have a law that doesn't have a ton of gray with it.
Yeah.
Well, that, and they're trying this in a huge logging and fishing state, which is gonna decimate.
Also an environmental state, but the thing they don't get is that even our fishermen and our loggers are environmentalists to a degree.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's where their livelihood is. So if they're not running out to do stuff to screw things up. Right? It's just, anyway, okay,
I'm sorry for my lack of understanding.
it's okay.
So, the letter gets received,
Mhm.
then it would be on them to contact FEMA and say, what are you doing?
Well, I
Is
think
that
what
what
they'll
you're
do it more nicely than I
Well,
will.
yeah.
But I think what they're going to do is point this out,
Okay,
that you have just put cities and counties essentially under a gun.
It's
okay.
more about showing our support, and that they've got 40 letters or 160 letters saying, you guys, you're not.
Yeah.
And it's more about, instead of just the senator wanting something, you're showing it how it's affecting.
Okay.
And so I think it's two things. It's one, we're circumventing the rule process by doing a portion of the state. We didn't include Klamath County because that basin
Drains to California.
drains into California. So we just done that along the top, along the side. And then the other thing that we've done is the lawsuit way back when said they're not, NEPA is a federal statute that says that you have to anytime the federal government does anything, they have to consider the environmental impact. So lawsuit says FEMA in administering its national floodplain, the NFIP is not consulting with NIMS on the Federal Endangered Species Act. So they start doing that. They've got the environmental impact statement in process. It's not through the federal process. They don't know that what's proposed is going to satisfy NIMS. Is the way I understand it. And so that's another thing is they've gotten the second lawsuit. And so instead of wait for the process to go through, we want to cover ourselves from the second lawsuit, and we're pushing it down on cities and counties. But I think that it's pretty complicated stuff, but.
Go ahead, Sue.
Couple of things. One is, you were talking about the flood insurance and if it gets canceled because we say, no, we're not gonna do this. Then the people that are the issuers of the flood insurance and the homeowners and such on there, is there any way we can contact them and say, hey, this is what's going on? And if we say no, then we could get some paperwork from them to go along with that.
So the issue, okay, is the National Flood Insurance Program is federally funded.
Right.
It's supplemented with tax dollars.
Right, it's supplemented with tax dollars. Because in most cases, if you live in a floodplain, if you have to get private insurance, you've just doubled your premium minimum.
Well, pretty
Exactly.
high anyway.
Yeah.
But that
I
would.
know, but imagine taking your total premium that you have now.
Yeah.
And doubling that just so you'd have flood insurance.
Right, and that would be the information that we need to get back from these insurance companies to saying, hey, if the city's not gonna do this, this is what's gonna happen, and then we can get everybody involved, because nobody wants to pay that huge bill unless they have to.
They can get involved by writing letters to Congress.
Yeah, and
We don't have
they
to.
need to be notified that this is coming down, because I don't think we're the only city that would say, yours. And-
No, we're not.
And that would be my next question is the coalition. And I'm guessing that there's
242 cities in the state of Oregon, and over 200 of them are affected by this.
Right, and that's what I'm thinking is, we shouldn't have to do this as a standalone. I'm thinking getting a coalition.
That's the meeting that they'll be at.
That's the meeting.
coalition's already,
Yeah.
the coalition's already been formed. We quote officially joined it last week after our meeting.
Right.
Okay, so all the rest of the cities and such are on board with this and encouraging them to write letters like this.
Yeah,
Yes.
the hardest thing right now is getting the big cities to not go on their own. To
Right.
stay as part of the coalition and go with everybody else.
With a bigger stick.
Because that gives everybody a bigger stick, and that way you don't have one entity settling
Right.
for one thing and another entity settling for another thing and another,
Oh, yeah,
we need to all do what's best for Oregon,
yeah, and
not just for Portland, right?
And I-
do what's best for Oregon.
yeah, so.
I can't remember what the act is, but in response to upheaval, I understand Senator Wyden in a bill that passed Congress and an act that passed Congress extended for 3 years the timeline that FEMA had to complete their environmental stuff.
Yeah.
They still don't.
And they still
They
don't.
don't have it done, so at least getting that, just make it 30 years or whatever
Yeah.
before they can bring it
There
back.
you go.
Yes.
How many of the 221 cities are
In the coalition.
in the?
Currently, right now, there's, I want to say 75. But we're trying to get more and more on board and understand what this means. And so it's an ongoing process. Most of the bigger cities are on board, but we're trying to get them to make sure that they stay in the coalition and not go on their own.
Can we know which cities they are and how
I
would
can
we
find out
find
for
that
you.
information?
I'll find out for you.
It'd be
Okay,
great if we could reach out to the ones that don't know.
So I will
Yeah.
send I will send the information to Lisa and then she can put it out to all of you. Because I'm not gonna start an email chain.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Are we in agreement with the letter?
Yes.
All right, then I will sign it now.
Yes, please.
All right,
Capital B.
darn right.
Yeah, send that. Well, what about getting copies of that to all the cities?
Feel free.
I mean, there's 200 and some cities. so-
We should send it to all of them.
Yeah, we should.
All right, our next item is
Oh, man.
discussion in regards to parking alternatives on Main Street. All right, from one fire into another.
Yeah.
All right, so it's been brought up by, folks along Main Street about in one particular case, having a loading / unloading zone put in front of Green Dragon. And it's not just for Green Dragon, just call it a loading unloading zone. Is that?
I thought we had already approved that one.
No, we have, this is the first time we've had that question back to us. It's got to come back to us before, okay?
Oh, I thought we had talked about.
Yeah, I thought we did a 15-minute parking.
No, we were talking about it in 3 different places. Now, once the Main Street folks have talked about it, it's only the one.
No, I thought that's what we talked, because I brought up, I thought Charlie wanted one down in there, and you said, no, only Green Dragon now.
Right, but we still have not acted upon it. And
Oh,
so
okay.
this is so that they have direction to write it up. Okay? Just because we talk about it does not mean it happens.
I have to do it in the proper
Yeah.
manner.
So you have to be directed.
Exactly.
Do stuff
Now-
so that we can write it up.
I know Counselor Bush isn't here. She is on vacation with her daughter, so I
Yeah.
gladly give her a pass. Her daughter's up from Florida. And for it once, as Tim put it, it's not raining here.
Oh, really?
Every other time her daughter has come up from Florida, it's been raining.
Oh my
So
gosh, that's
they're
great.
enjoying the sunshine and doing a lot of stuff. But one of the things that Counselor Bush has brought up, which will go into more detail and more depth within an urban renewal meeting, because urban renewal will have the money to be able to do. And it essentially equates to a whole new streetscape down Main Street. What she's suggesting is that we go to one-way with diagonal parking, widen the sidewalks to allow for more pedestrian usage. Doug, or Lisa, I can't remember, what was the name of the specific stuff she was talking about?
Parklets, maybe.
Parklets, that's it. I can't thought. Parklets, essentially mini green spaces along Main Street. And so she wants to talk about that. The thing I have with parking on Main Street, number one, is we need to have it actually marked. And as much as I hate to say it, we've got to figure out what to do about all the oversized trucks. Because half the pickups in this town take up a space and a half along Main Street. And so when you think you have a place to park, you actually don't, if you're in a normal vehicle. Plus, most of our handicap parking spots are not marked, and we are required to have them by law.
Are marked, just not
Not
efficient, not effectively.
Not effectively, okay, I'll
They
take
need,
your
they
word.
need repainted.
What's the amount by law that we're supposed to have per side or per block? Is there a certain amount per block?
I think what it is you have so many per space per block. What I think it works out to for us, we need to have one on each block. On each side, one on each block on each side, just one space. Essentially, it comes out to 2 spaces a block.
Well, I've talked to a few people about the parking thing, and it's 6 in one hand, half a dozen the other. As far as the one-way, one of the things is making a one-way so the semis can't go down Main Street. But how do you stop them from actually turning down one way or the other? That's,
They have to be able to go down Main Street.
Yeah, going down is what is the direction we'd like them to go,
well, that's what I mean, is
not the
it,
coming up.
right?
So I was just gonna let you know, I looked up the ADA for parking spots within a block. For every 25 spaces on the block, you have to have one ADA.
Yeah.
So
And
one,
some of the spaces don't have 25.
okay, hold on.
I mean-
Yes, chief.
I have a concern about the one-way.
I'm prepping you, just so that, please come to the URA meeting when we have it. Thank you.
Can we hear what it?
Well, because he'll have to reiterate it again later,
I don't know.
and he doesn't mind.
Emergency response is gonna be delayed considerably if we go to a one-way. We won't be able to get through places effectively and efficiently.
Yes, sir.
I would just, talking in history here, from what I found out about one-way streets. Arlene prefaced that if you want to fill this room again, 20 years ago, they looked at doing parking here one way back when we had shops downtown. And they were past fire capacity in this room, all screaming no.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
So I just throw that out there for.
But remember,
Yes.
I was in those meetings. Here's the difference between now and then. Main Street was full of businesses.
Yeah,
And half those parking spots were taken up by the owners of those
Yes.
businesses. Okay,
yes,
but we don't have as many businesses. We don't have near as many businesses on Main Street as we used to have.
no,
Unfortunately.
Yeah, but making it one way is not gonna bring them back.
I am not for or against one way. I'm just saying that there's a big difference in Main Street now compared to then. Okay?
Yeah.
And that's, the reason that Council President Bush brought it up, okay, was to be able to do a more pedestrian-friendly Main Street so that we could do more things like they're doing down at Cafe 235. Where like restaurants have seating outside, where you have nice little places to sit, little shopping, that kind of thing. That's why she's bringing it up as an idea. Okay, now maybe out of that, we come up with our own ideas. We usually do, and that's how Toledo works, and I'm fine with it. I just want you to hear her out. Okay?
no,
Okay, that's all I want out of that, because we have tried so many things to get more people down here. And we've gotta keep trying something. Because we don't have, I don't know how many of you have been to Hefner in the last 40 years, but Hefner's main city roads, oh my freaking God, are almost twice the width of our main street. So they were able to go in fairly narrow. There are two main roads that go through town, and they have all that stuff. And it just looks amazing, completely transformed the town of Hefner.
They have 100-foot right of ways along the state highway. We only have 60.
They're huge.
Well, my thought is Main Street's a great street. It serves a lot of different purposes and such. And it's also a good back and forth street. Because if we have trouble with the railroad, we need a place that we can do back and forth. And that's it. The other thing is that the way retail has changed makes a big difference. And retail has changed, and I think that if we're gonna concentrate on our business district, it's business 20, not Main Street.
This is spoken like a true guy who had a business on Business 20. And I'm only saying that because that's what I've heard for all 24 years I've
We've
been
got
here.
eyesores on Business 20. If you wanna look at stuff, look at those things and incorporate that, because that's where people drive. Then you say, oh, go up and down Main Street, and they go, where the hell's that? It's like, oh.
And that has always been the rub.
Because they're only gonna go down there if they're from out of town, but they get drawn down there. But the first thing we need to do is get those gosh darn building owners to take care of their shops. And until then, there's nothing we can do to
no, the
revive
first
it.
thing we need to do is get the parking money that we are gonna get if we ever get the parking
You're not gonna get cutesy
situated.
little benches and
So we
such
can
out
keep
there and
money.
tables so that people
We
can
need
eat.
parking
Okay,
ordinances for the
save, let's
That's
save
perfect.
this, save our consternation for an urban renewal meeting. Because that's the entity that has the money to actually do anything,
Right,
okay?
but what we need to
So-
take care of is the ordinance for parking.
Yeah, that
So
needs to
the
happen.
parking, okay, one,
Well, Mayor, if I could interject, I
You bet.
facetiously brought up parking meters. And everyone said no, so I'd like some guidance on what the council wants to do with parking.
well, so here's a question, and I wish our public works director, Brian, was here. How well are people respecting the no parking on Main Street on the Wednesday mornings when they go through and do the street sweeping?
That's a question I don't know the
That's
answer
why,
to.
that's why they're doing it at 6 o'clock in the morning.
But still, how well is that being respected?
Wait until fall, you'll know. 'Cause you
But
can
we've been
see
doing
the
this for 2
spookies.
years, Jackie. That's what I need. I
You
need,
don't.
Well, he's given no parking tickets.
So I think Ron's been pretty effective in making sure that there's a very limited amount of cars there for the sweet sweeper to go down that roadway. So I haven't heard any complaints, I haven't heard anything from Ron.
well, it's not Ron that I need to hear that from. I need to hear that from the street sweeper.
Of course, but Ron's actually working at that time period to make sure that the cars are not.
Because here's the thing. If you want to fill a room, talk about parking on Main Street. Doesn't matter doesn't matter
It
what the
doesn't matter.
situation is, that'll fill the room,
Yep,
okay?
yep.
I don't think we need to go to paid parking. Number one, we're the tiny town of Toledo. We don't need to have paid parking. Yes,
Paid parking or permitted parking? I'm asking.
oh, you want,
because-
so, okay, you're
In the
talking about to
past-
pay for your spot?
Yeah, in the past, there have been a lot of interest in
So-
certain people wanting to purchase or.
So how do you do
lease
that?
Or, that's what I'm saying.
But in the same respect, if we're already having a hard time getting them to move for the street sweepers on Wednesdays, how are you gonna get Joe to stay out of Tom's spot if Tom has paid for that spot? I'm just being the devil's advocate.
Right.
It's,
How do you
it's,
enforce it?
it's one of those enforcement things that we're already.
We need to keep
on that
first.
Not enough officers.
Well, we need to think it through first. Number one, if you do a paid permit parking spot, what happens if you're not there?
It wasn't the parking spot. It would be a spot for that vehicle. We worked through that already.
Okay,
And the only reason we went that far was because we had like one person on 3 different blocks that were sort of
so
disabled.
you're permitting the vehicle to be on Main Street.
To have a parking spot on Main Street. But
What
it
if,
did
what if
not
other people have
exclude
taken
them.
up all those spots? Does that person get to evict somebody so they can have their spot?
For overnight? I was talking overnight parking, sorry.
Okay, you didn't preface that.
I'm sorry, I was speaking about overnight parking.
Okay,
But it
and what do you
didn't
define
include-
as overnight? What hours?
It was evening hours. It was 8 to
8 to 6.
6, I think.
So what does that do for people visiting the Timbers or visiting any other businesses that might be open at that time, like the,
Depends on how many people have a permit on their block.
I can see this in a residential place, but down on Main Street is just Main Street. And and to change it and such on there is just gonna open up
I'm
Big.
just saying.
20, 30 more people in here going, what the heck? In this town, we need the two-way, and if nothing else, take care of the foliage and make it so you can see a little better. And, as far as the street sweeper, if he doesn't catch it one week, he'll catch it the next week.
No.
I was asking it from the standpoint of, those signs have been up now for 2 years.
Yeah.
How well is it being obeyed? That's what I
would
was
say
getting at.
Not at all.
Well,
No,
Compared to when it first started, it's being better.
It's
I
a
can-
lot better.
I can vote for that, but
Why are we even doing that?
are we even
Street
doing
sweeping?
what?
Yes, no, not the streets. We've been putting those signs up just so he can get through there. We don't do it anyplace else in town.
There are many purposes for a street sweeper, one of which is to make sure that the streets stay clean so it doesn't get into our stormwater system and screw up our stormwater system.
Well, we get it other neighborhoods and we don't put those signs up.
Because those other neighborhoods are residential parking places.
And they should be able to do that on Main Street too, because we have
So-
people in residences there.
And people in residences have always been encouraged to park on the side streets if they're in the residences. Not on Main Street proper, because that was supposed to be for commercial customers.
So now, the other thing that's happening down there, and I went down and talked to a bunch of people, the other thing that's happening is that that have this business park their cars in front of the next business all day long.
That's been going on for as
Yes.
long as I've lived here.
So it gets
That's
back
always
to,
been the,
so it gets back to the original problem, and that is the tickets, so that people know if they park there, they
What
are
are you
gonna
gonna
get a
ticket
ticket.
them for? We don't even know what we're gonna ticket them for yet. That's why we
So
can't write
if
an
you put-
ordinance.
If you put up 60-minute parking or 30-minute parking, hey, pretty soon they'll get it.
But how do you prove how long so-and-so's been in such?
you have a parking enforcement person who goes
Yeah.
along and does little
And
nicks on
we
the
used to
tire.
have one of those.
But we don't have the money for that.
We don't even have enough police officers right now, let alone a parking enforcer.
All it takes is for a business, a merchant to get one $200 ticket, and they won't do that anymore.
An idea. Justin, our part-time planner, I know for another jurisdiction in a couple months, I think is gonna do a parking analysis. And they come in and they look and look at hours of the day and see, you know, what hours of the day there's parking problems, parking issues. To see whether or not there's a problem. Whether you need to permit parking or whether you need to do paid parking or whether you. So that's one thought where we could eventually go if we decide that. The council decides that it is a,
Well, the one
that
thing,
there's
do we
problem.
all agree on the one loading and unloading zone and that parking spaces be painted as soon as possible?
Yes,
I'll
I agree
I'll
with that.
agree to the 15-minute parking in front of the Green Dragon.
Right, just so.
That's the only place
As its own
that's
loading and unloading.
15-minute, just so that they can get their security cameras and all that stuff out there and keep them within
Right.
the guidelines.
And the handicap.
Yeah, but
Well, the handicap is.
I would wait to see the analysis and such on there.
But the problem I would have with us doing an analysis in Toledo is, as you've said many times, we're not like all the other cities. So we have an influx of people that come into our city during certain times, and then we're kind of dead on Main Street during certain times. So it's like winter times, you don't see as many people and parking problems as you do during spring and summer and towards the fall.
Well, and the one thing that you can do that, and this is something that unfortunately learned, if you have the parking study done and it shows X, if it shows X and we go with the solution to X, we actually have a study to back us up if anybody wants to take us. Okay? If we do X and then we do Y, and we don't have X to fall back on, we can be in trouble. Okay? I'm glad to hear we're gonna do another one because the last time we did one was like 2002.
Well, no, we haven't committed to do one, Mayor.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
saying that.
Another city's getting ready to.
Oh, another
Another
I thought
city
you
that
said
he's
we.
working for. No, that's something we
Gotcha.
could.
Do you happen to know what those run municipality?
I think I asked him and it's been 3 or 4 weeks and I don't remember.
See if you can find out. Bring that number back to us at our next meeting. Right now, do we agree that we do? Yes, sir.
Just before, I just want to throw out a question. I'm not for or against, but I'm just throwing some questions out to make sure we talk through everything here, but do we really need a loading, unloading zone when we have a downtown that is not very lively? And if you have, I mean, we're talking about a 15-minute loading zone. A lot of times you hear pulling up, there's a car there. If you go around the block, come back around, that car's gone. Do we really need a loading zone? And I only say that is especially like a problem I have right now. And I think it's because of the way that they've signed it. Green Dragon places their sign out there that says, this is our curbside pickup. It's almost like they're reserving that spot. And now we go put a loading zone in front of it for use for everybody. But then they have their sign in front of it and it appears, and we allow that sign to stay, their appearance is that's only for them.
I believe, and I could be misspoken, but I believe Karen said that she would not be putting that sign out if there was a actual physical sign put up by
It
the
shouldn't
city.
even be out there now.
That I can't speak to.
Right, but I mean, because in a way it reserves that spot, they're showing reservation for it. And I only say that because even during AOB, they went out there in the spot and they wrote in chalk, this parking is for, and reserved it for themselves for that AOB event, which, I'm just saying.
But here's the flip side of that coin. I kind of like the idea of them having that, and here's why. Because they have security cameras on that spot. And so essentially, I think you'll have a better chance of if there's something up, something nefarious, something whatever. People are going to take the nearest spot if they're going to do something bad.
No,
Think about this.
no, I was gonna ask a question. Is Cafe 235 going in next door? So that would.
Yes.
I was gonna raise that.
Going into Stas.
I'm not advocating one way or the other, but on this block, that side of the street, we've got, you can't see it, but in front of the handicap, in front of the restaurant, we've got the handicap spot on that corner. And part of the reason we do that is because the curb cut and the access. On this block, we've got a loading zone in front of the hotel, and immediately in front of that, coming this direction, a handicap spot. So if you're gonna put another handicap spot on that next block.
Well, if we only have to have one block in this case, then that's all we.
Yeah.
See, I don't think we need that loading spot in front of the hotel anymore because it's not a hotel anymore.
That should go away.
That should go away.
Yeah.
And just move the one loading across the street,
And just move that one loading across the street in front of the Green Dragon.
because that'll affect 235 and Green Dragon since.
It'll affect 235 and Green Dragon. We don't nail it to one business, but we have security cameras there.
Yeah.
Okay. And we move the one handicap spot that's in front of the loading zone at the hotel. We move it down to that first spot when it
So
comes
do
in.
you believe that could create an issue with 235? And I bring that issue up is during AOB, they complain enough about us blocking their customers during AOB.
I really wish somebody would have come and got me when those complaints came in.
Well, we're
I'm pretty sure it
encouraging
could
them
fix
to
that.
come, we're encouraging them to come in and address that, but they haven't yet. But we're trying to encourage them to come in because when employees like myself and Lisa go down, we hear about it, right? So we've encouraged them to come in and talk. But I'm just saying, is that going to create an issue now that you put a loading zone there and that's going to take away parking from his restaurant, which is going to be right there?
Well, he does a lot of takeout.
I understand that.
And both people should be able to use it if it's a 15-minute zone.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm fine either way. I'm just trying to work through all the issues that we're thinking about because
Cause here's what
when we
has to
decide to
happen.
do it, which is fine, and I support that, and I think loading zones are great, by the way. But when we do that, we need to make sure we think of all the issues that are gonna come before you that's gonna be
Well,
argued.
that's why Green Dragon sign would have to go away.
Yep.
And the signage would be loading, unloading for local businesses as a, you know, I think that'd be the best way
Yeah,
to put
not
it.
specific to one.
Not specific to one. It can't be, you know, for lack of a better word, painted in either one of the businesses' colors or any of that stuff. Right? It's just
Generally,
simply,
your loading zones are green, I'm just saying.
I think I'm trying to come up with a different, I'm trying to come up with a different color.
I know, but if
There we go.
you go traffic standards,
I know, I'm trying to get out of that traffic. I thought about that already. I was trying to pick a neutral color.
Gold,
Green and gold, yeah, that's a good.
blue and gold.
All right.
No, no.
You
Blue
just
and
said the
gold.
duck's color. Did you not see the?
Oh, he knows that. He and I've known each other long enough. He knows how I feel.
you know, like I say,
The colors of nuclear
red
waste.
is a fire zone, green is a loading zone.
Just
blue
paint
is
it like
handicap,
everything else in
it's just
town.
the way it goes.
Black and orange.
Yeah.
Um. So do we essentially agree on those things at this time?
So
Loading
removing the
and
loading zone
paint.
from the hotel, adding the loading zone at the front of the Green Dragon / 235 area.
Right.
And then repainting all the parking spots, including the handicap spots where they're needed, right?
Correct.
And the taking down of the sign from the hotel that says.
Right.
Right, that's getting rid of the loading zone.
Yeah, getting.
Get rid of that loading zone
Yeah.
completely.
Yeah.
Because it was
Okay.
there so taxis could drop people off.
And if it's not gonna be a hotel, then there's no reason
no
to
need
have
for
that
it.
as a loading zone.
Right.
Okay.
Check in or.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
And-
the,
So Simon, tell it.
the thing that I'm concerned with is that the loading zone, if we had a 15-minute parking, that would put people, especially if it was painted green,
Well, I think what he was saying is that the sign itself would say 15-minute loading zone.
the curb.
Yeah,
Because people are used to seeing that as a restricted area,
right.
yes. Because that,
What you would do is do the curb and then probably the outline. In a different, you know, in that blue and gold.
Like a dead body outline,
yeah.
no parking.
I thought they did them in the stripes.
It's kind of
It's
like
not, it's just
moving.
the outside edges.
I moved.
No, usually it's just the curb
And,
and you put stripes down and that's generally goes with no.
okay.
Yeah.
Did that give you enough direction, Mike?
Yeah, so Mayor, I did not comment last time we were here. I think the city charter gives the city manager the authority to do all this downtown. And if we need an ordinance, I'll bring it back to you.
Okay,
But these things that we've talked about now, I don't think an ordinance will be required.
perfect.
And I have direction, so I got it.
And we
Okay.
took notes, so.
All right.
And we've talked about it. We appreciate you guys.
Yep.
Making the call.
So we don't have to talk about it again for,
Not until the
Go to the Urban Renewal Agency.
oh, yeah. Shoot me now.
One of
No,
the
no,
girls
I'm not gonna
tonight
do it.
throw.
I'm not gonna do it.
That's front of the tree.
All right, we have no decision items.
Yeah, we should touch bases with the restaurant coming in too, to make sure he knows what's happening.
Which restaurant?
235.
235.
Okay.
I'll go down and talk.
Well,
Because he's
I
putting a lot
I
of
assumed you
effort.
would come with
So where's
somebody
he
else
going?
because we already-
Right next door to Tada's.
Yeah, because they're got.
Corner,
they're got a
and
business.
the side.
You got Holy Toledo, then you got Green Dragon, then you got Tada's Mercantile,
Can we
going into
get?
Tada's Mercantile.
Around the end.
Tax place,
Yeah, the old jewelry
the old
store.
jewelry store.
Yeah,
I'll go down and talk to.
Well, and their plan is to hopefully be moving in to the hotel at some point. Because it's got
Once the
more
property.
area, it's set up, they can have a conference room, they can, they can do all kinds of stuff there.
tequila bar.
No, Mai Tai bar. Yeah.
Oh, I could just see Stu in a grass skirt now with my tie in his hand.
All right, reports and comments. Lisa,
I don't think I have any tonight, Peter. Thank you.
all right. Is Harrison online?
Harrison's home with COVID.
Hey. Oh, Harrison,
The
take care.
whole family.
Harrison, take care of yourself. Let's see. Is Brian online?
I couldn't get him on the cell phone either. I was trying to ask your question.
All right. Let's go to the quiet man in the back. Chief Rose.
Nothing new right now. Talked a little last week, so we're holding steady, waiting for the heat wave to see what we really get out of it.
It'll be 90 degrees Saturday, so.
Yeah, that's concerning. So we're kind of
Because it stays at 90.
It's gonna be nice.
And Saturday's supposed to be pretty warm and east winds possibly coming in. So the heat day, I don't know. So heat doesn't bother. It's the east winds that
Yeah.
can really mess things up fast.
So did they change the forecast for the North Valley?
I've seen a few.
Yeah, because yesterday they were talking about thunderstorms and a lot of water being dumped in the North Valley on this weekend. That doesn't normally happen with an east wind.
Yeah, it's stuff
Out of the
for
works.
emergency management is showing that we get heat starting tomorrow. Not a lot here, but just inland in our district, we'll be
Right.
seeing it. Willamette Valley. And no, there might be dry thunder. I haven't seen anything about a good rain
Okay.
event.
I just looked at two different weather reports and they're also in 68 and 70 here on
Yeah,
Saturday.
that's what I got too.
Like literally looking on the weather channel now.
Well,
it's
that's because,
68.
okay, that's because they generally take the weather out of Newport.
Yeah, but it'll be just inland is where our concern will be.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, when we did our tour, they were talking about, I think you touched on it, the radio station. Is there anything new on?
I talked with Harrison yesterday about that, and we're gonna move it to a different computer. But right now, when the generator does its restart, test weekly, for some reason, it's kicking the computer out. And so we've been trying to figure out a way to get it so that more than just one person can go update it. And so working with Harrison, he's kind of tricky little devil. We've got a way to work around that. And then put a small backup battery supply on it, so when that does happen, if that happens, it won't affect anything.
Cool.
So, yeah, there's a hiccup. With him, we got to fix to it, and it'll be a standalone system that will have zero interference with any city network. 100% clean from it,
Perfect.
yeah, which kind of makes Justin feel a little better.
So just a quick question, as far as that gas leak yesterday, everything came out all right? No bad issues?
Yeah, it came out just great, and filled the underside of that truck with a lot of natural gas. You know, that was a 5-inch steel pipe of natural gas that came out of there. It wasn't the normal plastic piping that they can reach in and crimp it and close it. That's why it turned into such a long extended event, is they had to dig it out, weld the tip on the end of it and start over. So their original expectation was at least 100 customers affected. I don't know what the number ended up being. But
They were shutting off customers going up my road up Alder Lane Drive, which is way far away, but they were shutting everybody down, which I was impressed to see.
I'll went over to Stu's.
Yeah, I haven't had a shower for 3 days. No hot water.
We got back onto the area about it was a grinder. They were grinding down the road, and I don't know if they got too deep. I never made it that far down. I don't know if they got too deep. The pipe was too high. I don't know. But they found it and busted off a service line. It wasn't the 5-inch that busted. It was a small service line that busted, but they had to get in and go from the bottom up repairs. That's what was so extended about it.
Okay.
And extended it was.
Well, that's the first time I've ever heard of that happening in our community, so at least we've got a little history now. What
That's the biggest line I've ever seen broken.
Mhm.
That's the biggest line. Usually it's a small one. They go in, they crimp it, they fix it, no harm, no foul.
Yeah,
This-
one user that had to get some more fixed today on it because when they did hook it, it pulled it out of her wall in her house. So they just removed the meter and came back today to put it all back in.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Well, one good outcome was when they turned my gas back on, they said, oh, you've got an old meter. We need to
Oh, nice.
So I'm gonna get a new meter.
There you go.
We had really good winds at the time of the break. We actually had battling winds. They kept changing north, south, and some heat. And so the heat is good. It disperses it up, but the per capita, the stinky stuff will drop down and you'll still smell it. So we really never got anything on our meters within 150 feet of it because there was so much wind dispersing it. So that was good. Hot day, get rid of it, disperse it with the wind. It's good. Shelter in place.
Any other questions for Chief? All right. Chief Pace, welcome back.
Thanks, nothing for me.
Any questions for Chief Pace? Wow, you get off easy. Mike?
I've just been talking to a couple union attorneys, working on some personnel stuff. Did some research on Milk Creek and Dam and Reservoir and our deed ownership. And worked on the employee handbook that I'm gonna send Doug the draft for us as management to start going through before it comes to you.
Good.
And I don't know, there's lots of other things out there.
Any questions for Mike? All right, Doug?
I got FEMA category A has been completed, signed off. We're gonna get about, so there's many categories, but category A was just the debris removal portion. They calculated a little over $68,000 in debris removal. We get 75% of that, somewhere around $52,000. This is what we'll get reimbursed back from FEMA. Just signed off on that today. We still got categories B, G, and Z, so we'll see what those work out to be. So
Tell me that Z doesn't have to do with zombies.
no, Z is what they call administration fees. So all of our work that we do, we get to time that and put it in, and they reimburse us for all the time that we spent collecting all the data for FEMA to put all this in. So
You mean they actually do something right?
yeah, they come back and they'll give us that time at our rates, which include benefits as well. So
Good.
and then category B is like some of our property damages. And or no, category B, sorry, is not property damage. It's the like when we had the failures of systems and what those cost us to get them up and going and things. And then category G is property damages. So I'm learning a lot. But on the bright note, about 68,000 in debris removal, and of which we're gonna get about 52,000 with the percentage back.
From the storm.
Yeah.
So the Amanda wanted me to let you know the software is coming along well. The implementation, they've been doing a lot of practice stuff on the back end through practice servers. Every day they're testing and finding errors and getting them fixed so that when we go live in mid-September, we'll be going live. The good thing to know and bad thing to know is we are upgrading our credit card pay system to express bill pay. The biggest thing that's gonna be great about that is it's gonna be more secure than what we had. The bad thing is everybody that has online accounts right now are gonna have to go back in and reset up their accounts in Express Bill Pay. However, more secure, more information, you'll be able to get your meter reads right there. You go back, you can do a lot more things with it, like you can do the auto pay. But you can also set caps on that auto pay. So like in case you get a leak and don't know it, let's say you're used to your bill being, let's say $150, and you can set a cap of 200. But let's say you get a leak and all of a sudden you got a bill of 900. It's only going to let you take $200 on the auto pay, and it's going to give you notice that, hey, you didn't pay your whole bill. So then you're going to, oh crud, I have so for people that do paperless billing. I mean, it's got some safety features in it, which are nice. We're looking forward to getting that implemented. It'll be going out in the newsletter to get people to watch for it, that it's coming.
Good.
I'm working on the vehicle policy. I just sent it out to Amanda and Mike to, put another set of eyes on it, and then I'll be putting it before my management team on Tuesday. So, and then hopefully first or second, probably the second meeting in September, I'll be bringing it before council to review and see where we go. So again, updating it, and it looks good. And then Mike's been working on the ham policy, which was 2010, isn't that right? So we're getting that updated to the language that should be in there for PLO and all that stuff. That's what Mike's been working heavily on and cross-referencing with ORSs. So that's what I got.
Any questions for Doug?
Question and something that's going on, and that is on my tour of Main Street and yakking with people and such on there. One of the things that was brought up was the fact that some of the business owners are using the city garbage cans for their sanitary, put their garbage in. And also some of the outside people are putting their homeowner garbage in the city garbage cans. And I'm wondering as if we should look into that and maybe put something on.
Talking like our garbage cans right here.
Garbage cans up and down.
Oh, up and down the main street.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will tell you, wherever we got garbage cans sitting out, that's a common thing up and down, and it stinks. Well, literally.
It does, but
But
if it's okay to do that, I could.
if it's caught, we try to inform them and those types of things, but it's so hard to catch it because they do it in the night or they do it early in the morning
When
when.
beauty salon is using it, and a lot of people from the hotel are using it as their. I don't even think that they have commercial garbage.
I'll have to check if there's in their parking lot, if there is. I'll check on that, but I'll look at those and we'll see.
I know you go to the state parks and it says no home garbage, and I'm wondering as if we should be doing that. Just to.
We can place signs on them. I don't know if it'll stop it.
It may not stop it,
Yeah.
but at least you will have a little bit.
And I know it's a common problem. My last town I was in, we had that same problem, but the trash people, we had a private trash service, just like Dolls was out there, but they were catching wind of it, and because they didn't charge the city to dump, obviously. And but they were catching wind of it and they were opening the bags, figuring out who it was, and then they would come to the city and then we would write them a letter about the illegal dumping and tend to work a little bit. So we could work with Dolls on that if that's becomes an issue.
So who picks up our garbage cans on
Dolls.
Main Street?
Oh, Dolls does all the plastic ones that we have up and
Okay.
down.
Well, I didn't know if we did it and then put it into a city dumpster, or if Dolls empties all of those.
Dolls.
Okay,
If they can get them.
the ones all along the street?
Cars are parked.
Well, if there's cars parked in front, sometimes they don't hit it because
It'll sit.
there's a car in the way. They won't get out and move it out and do it, it's just.
Sometimes you can't. They're so full of water and heavy. We've tried.
Yeah, while I was down there, this was definitely happening, and it's not my place to tell them, don't do that, but I thought I'd bring it up tonight.
Unfortunately, the one losing money on that is Dolls. And, like I said, in the past city, we let them come to us, the private entity come to us and do the complaint, and then we would handle it as part of the franchise agreement, but, that's it's unfortunate, yes.
Chief,
If you have a one-way street, can you only have garbage cans on one side? Because how are they gonna dump the ones on the other?
bring it up at the URA.
You're invited. It's a serious thing.
You're invited.
I'm not going down that
Yeah, my
road.
response.
One way's gotta happen, not gonna happen.
In any event, see, here it started already. You owe me. You owe me. No, don't say another word. Chief, don't say.
No.
council comments. Start with you, Frank.
I don't have much. I scheduled my surgery today for my shoulder. It's gonna be a complete repair. I pushed it off until after our conference because I feel I owe it to our citizens to go and get the training. So the day after I get back, I go to surgery. They gotta reattach my bicep with tendons down further because I've torn it all the way up. Tore up my labral and my rotator cuff, so it's a complete repair.
Can you see the X-ray?
No, because
I could probably drag up the MRI. But other than that, I spoke with a couple citizens about the stoplight thing out there by Dairy Queen by N 229. Again, 6 of one and half a dozen the other for the roundabout or the stoplight. And it's, I don't know, I think I'm gonna put a poll.
they
out
want
there.
something.
Something for safety, because and that's what every single person I talked to reiterated was, it's a safety issue because there's just too many accidents right there at 229.
Yes.
And it's a safety issue. So it's just more things. They canceled our meeting for CWAC this month, so I couldn't yell at them.
Well, I just like how effective you are.
I'm gonna tell them they need to grind down that little band-aid they did on their East Junction because it's just a temporary thing, because
Exactly.
I mean, if you don't grind it
It's
down.
already starting to lip up again.
Yes, it is. Went over it today. So.
Well, is there any way that the CWAC people could do another study or something to look at all the accidents and everything to kind of?
Probably, that's all on ODOT.
I know they've studied the same, but a current one might get some more teeth going.
I agree.
Yeah.
Jackie? You got anything?
At this time.
Okay. Jackie?
Nothing for me.
Stu?
I am just gonna be a free man come Friday night, so look out.
What?
Unemployed free man.
Oh, I didn't hear anything about you two divorcing, so I was trying to figure out what.
I haven't got that yet, but.
Oh.
But she's not watching this live podcast.
No, we're on vacation.
Just remember, folks, school starts next Tuesday. Be aware, kids are gonna be out bicycling to class, kids are gonna be out walking to class. The school buses are gonna be back out. When a school bus turns on its flashing lights, stop your stupid car and don't pass them.
That doesn't mean speed up.
No, it doesn't mean speed up.
It's a yellow flashing.
Stop.
Yeah, and
Okay.
the red you have to stop, not the yellow.
Do we know if those, speaking of which, those flashing lights are for the speed limit thing there by the elementary school are up and running?
I believe they're up and running. We only have one left to put up, right?
Just the ones that are gonna go across Slope Road, the bridge area there.
At East.
They're coming in to do the ADA portion of that here, I think, next week. And then we still got the signs order, but they're just not here yet.
Okay.
But we are up on-
Signs for.
They're already out
high school-
there.
For the high school.
Oh, for the high school, that's the county.
Saying.
That's the county.
That's county.
I will let you know, I got a meeting on the 9th with Michael Dewan at Public Works about an IGA for all of Sturman.
Okay.
So we gotta be thinking about what we want out of that IGA.
So come ready with your comments for Doug at our next meeting, folks.
IGA.
Like
Intergovernmental agreement.
intergovernmental agreement,
What they
where
want maintenance, we're,
take over maintenance of the road.
Got it.
Take
we can
over
sign it, we can put
police
up our
patrolling.
speed limits and we can police
If there's
patrol.
any cha-ching.
Better be some shit.
So you said.
That might be the problem,
Said it was 35 right there. I noticed that it's 35, 10 feet before the 20-mile-an-hour sign. But on the opposite side of the street, it's 30. The signs are at the exact same location.
You're going two different ways.
Right there in front of the elementary school, 20-mile-an-hour sign. It's like 10 feet before heading north is a sign that says 35 mile an hour, then it says 20. But directly across the
Right.
street heading south, it says 30 at that exact same spot. So now I know why you say it was 35, because I was like, no, it says 30.
Anyway. That's what I mean. We need
You're
to
right.
do some stuff on this.
Hadn't even dawned on me till
So
just now.
make sure to be aware of that. So as most of you know, I coach. So my afternoons, I got to go do, and don't misunderstand me, I do have some enjoyment doing this job, but I love coaching kids. And I remember Monday, you know, just seeing their faces and working with them and getting them to do stuff. And as Doug will tell you, we coach more about life than we do about the sport, because that's what sports has always been about to us, is life. And it brings me joy every day. And so just know that I'm gonna be looking like this a lot during the fall, because our practices are after school, and I will get here as quick as I can. I didn't notice Stu hadn't had a shower in 3 days. So
I was impressed when I saw them kids Tuesday. They were awesome.
Enjoy your 3-day weekend. It's the last one you'll have for a while. I am hoping that we don't get the east winds. The last times we had east winds on Labor Day weekend was the Otis fire.
Otis. Yeah.
Exactly. The
Yeah.
Otis fire. And I do not want to go through another one of those. Okay, so chief,
No.
stop them.
Yeah, please.
Tell them to stay in the valley. They're not allowed to pass Paloma.
No tourists allowed, no East.
It's an overreaction.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And with that, we are adjourned.
Yeah.
I'll put it this way, when I